Bimington.
And we are live.
I was going over the ideas that I have for the Battle Royale game.
Oh, that will be exciting.
And he was just getting to the good stuff, the Bimmy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
The Bimington Wheel of Randomness.
Oh, no.
That gets spun at the start of every 20 initiative.
Oh, jeez. Nope. Nope. Big fat nope. Hi, guys. Welcome to the next episode of Behold Lore. I'm your hostess, Zoro from E3. I'm here with my wonderful lore masters, Rhojin and HB Fox. We are, I'm sure, all hot right now, so excuse the sound of fans and everything in the background right now. So hopefully it doesn't
I've got my
bad.
personal air conditioner running in my room.
Oh, see, there you go. I have to make it just so it's more bearable for you guys at least.
Yeah, it's bearable. My computer isn't going to explode because, you know, heat.
Yeah, that's
So it's not
good.
It's not too bad in Southern California right now. It's only like 87.
Which is weird because California is always the hot state. We're like 100 degrees right now, so it's like.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We haven't had any 100-degree days yet. We've gotten close. We've got like 95, 96, but we haven't really had any 100-degree days where I'm at.
I measured the temperature in the shade earlier today, and it was 117.3.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's Fahrenheit, right? That's not
That's
Celsius.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
You know, if it was Celsius, you'd just see a whole bunch of fire on my camera right now.
It's hot. Don't go outside.
Fox broadcasting from the surface of the sun.
Yeah, right. Speaking of hot, the subject today is homebrew races. So we're going to be talking about that today. So we will be answering questions like we usually do. The second half of the podcast, but we won't have a guest this time around, so it's just the three of us, all three lovely people. So we're gonna start off with Rhojin, because Rhojin, being our primary dungeon master, who comes up with a bunch of the different homebrew races, such as the shark folk, technically raccoon, because we don't see raccoon walking around. Again, for those of you who don't know, he's our legendary gift giver. Every time people generously donate towards Extra Life through our channel, so always a fun, one-of-a-kind race, technically, since we never really met another raccoon, so he's unique. Plus many, many other races that we've come across. So, Rhojin, do you have like a list of all the different races that you have created up to now?
Yeah, I have a list of the races that are currently in the campaign 2 area. There are some that you guys have like come really close to running into, but go the other direction, so you never have encountered them before. But there is a race that was created episode 0 on a certain island.
Oh, what?
In the world that was made by the community. This wasn't me. And that's the sentient puffins on the island of Tortiga.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And just as a little teaser, if all goes according to plan and drama does not ensue on Tuesday, you may be running into said puffins.
Is that going to be part of our beach day?
That is the beach episode.
Yeah, puffins.
Tortiga is pretty much a resort island. It's very small, and it's off one of the shores of Helios and Hellion's Gate, and it's just this little resort island.
Oh, that'll be exciting. That's
Yeah,
just a couple days away, so that'll be fun.
So I've had that area planned for the longest time, and you guys have gotten so close to like just deciding to go to Tortiga, and you've never done it. So
Yeah, we do that a lot.
now that you have a ship that can take you literally anywhere, you'll finally get to go to the beach resort, and there'll be no Gary or anything like that.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, because that was a creepy last beach episode we had.
There is, I will say, also a race of sort of slime people that exist somewhere in the world.
Oozes? Just some oozes going around?
They're oozes, but they have the ability to maintain like a humanoid shape.
Oh. Now I'm getting the water people vibe from Futurama.
Yeah, kind of like that. Kind of like that, or kind of like the humanoid slime monsters that people put into some of their like RPGs and whatnot.
Oh, creepy. Well, that could be fun. Now, because we mentioned it just a moment ago, is Gary made up, or is he an actual creature?
No, Gary is something I made up. Gary was just like, oh, you know what? It'd be cool to have, you know, this cult dedicated to this strange flying toothy being that seems to enthrall people's minds by reading random books. So yeah, Gary was just a spur of the moment creation on your guys' first beach episode.
What does he look like? Are we allowed to know?
You guys have only seen his avatar, which is that giant floating eyeball with teeth, which I got
Yes.
the idea, which I got the premise, the idea from Terraria, with the Eye of Cthulhu, which is a giant eyeball that, you know, can open up this giant toothy maw. So you've only seen his avatar. You haven't actually run in. No, I'm wrong. You guys
We've seen
haven't.
Like these shadow children, sort of.
That's not Gary. That's not Gary.
Oh no.
You guys have actually sat down and talked with the actual Gary before.
When?
Sometime in your adventures.
Son of a bitch. All right, when campaign
Did
2
we
ends,
know it was Gary?
Nope.
Who was Gary? What did you
No,
say, Fox?
I just asked if we knew it was Gary, and clearly we didn't.
No.
It's what's his face hanging out on the boat with us the whole time.
No,
it's not Noel.
He's some other motherfucker.
Yeah. Noel is something completely different. Noel is pretty much my Q.
And Noel, he's made up too, isn't he? Like what he is?
Yeah, Noel originally started off as a subtype of goblin that had the ability to just like mess with space and time and probability, and then I just started spinning him off, like started shaping him a little bit more as we went through campaign 1.
Oh, okay. So we have several already that we've just mentioned, including we have shark folk. We definitely even have some variants, slight variants, but they're still there. For instance, HP Fox made a PDF of the different types of Knowles variations that you can make, since there's technically one that sort of exists and it's not even really a playable race per se through Wizards of the Coast, more of just like the monsters versions of them, but you've come up with some fun variants for them. I think there's like desert and even some winter Knowles, isn't there? I think.
Yeah. So with the PDF that I put out, based on some testing that I did with Zale in campaign 2, I ended up with 4 sub-races of Gnoll. One of them is what you see in the Gnoll Way Out campaign, and what Kyo is as well, which is a desert Gnoll. I think pretty self-explanatory. They live in the desert. Then you have the Frost Gnolls, which were actually inspired by I believe it was prehistoric race or species of hyena that actually lived in the northern hemisphere when there was a land bridge between what is now Russia and what is now North America. That's where they lived, and they had lighter coats. They were very large, and that's what this frost gnoll subrace is based on. They're typically white-furred, large sturdy gnolls. And then you got the Gnoll Stalker, which is just kind of, if you don't want a region-specific Gnoll, that's the one you're going to want to go with. And then there's also Gnoll Leader, which is going to be your matriarchs or your hunting party leaders, your warband leaders, that type of thing. And those all came out of playing Zale in Campaign 2.
Very nice. And we have, and I don't know how much you want to reveal, of course. I know it's a little hush-hush right now because of Campaign 3 around the corner, but you are making up a race for that as well, known as the Valkyrie race. Did you want to give us any insight on what those are all about?
Yeah, I think I could talk about that a little bit. It is subject to change as that campaign goes on. Obviously, it hasn't been play tested yet, so once it has been play tested, adjustments may be made. But the Valkyrie is essentially the hitman of the Celestials, because Celestials are often depicted as these holy, righteous, good beings. But the problem with Celestials is many of them think that their word and their ruling is law, and anything beyond that is unacceptable and gotta get rid of it. But of course, they also have to follow their own laws, so they can't just go around killing people. So who do they turn to when they need something or someone eliminated? Well, that's what the Valkyrie are for. They send these Valkyrie out to essentially do their dirty work, and then they punish the Valkyrie for it. Because they have now broken the Celestial laws, even though it was a direct order from the Celestials. It's just what they do up there. They're kind of jerks.
I mean, everyone is.
Yeah. And so I thought, how would a Valkyrie end up on the material plane? And I got to thinking about how the whole lore behind the Asmars worked. So I decided to essentially make a material plane Valkyrie an Asmar of the Asmars. So an Asmar is born like 1 in a million pairing of any material plane race. So what if you took 2 Asmars and had them have a child? And what would be the 1 in a million of an Asmar's child? And that's what the material plane Valkyries are.
Oh, okay. So if I understand correctly, the Valkyrie are, to put it in religious terms, are kind of the archangels of the celestial
kind of
realm.
Yeah.
The punishers and all that, the warrior type race.
I wanted to draw a lot on the real world lore of like the Seraphim and such, and also the real world lore of like the Nordic Valkyries and stuff, and can kind of combine those things together, and that's what became this warrior celestial that is the Valkyrie.
Yeah, because the second you say Valkyrie, I mean, everyone knows that your first thought is going to be kind of the Norse mythology of these warrior females that are just badass.
Yeah.
These angelic badasses.
And that's one aspect that I pulled from the Nordic Valkyrie as well, that I'm still kind of iffy about it, but currently with the way that I have the Valkyrie worked, it is a female only race, just like the Nordic Valkyries are.
Right.
I'm always a little iffy about making something locked in that way, but I'll play it, see how it feels, and go from there.
I mean, when you think about it, anyone who knows anything about mythology, Valkyries are always female.
Yep.
So to make it female only makes sense in that aspect, because they're always female. But do they have certain characteristics like the Valkyries, such as wings?
They do. So I wanted to step away from just, here's wings, you have a 30-foot flight speed, done. I wanted to do something different from that, because it's been done 1,000 times over in D&D, in their various races. So I gave the Valkyrie a different type of wing. It's still the the white feathered celestial wing that you'd think of. But rather than like sprouting from their shoulder blades, they're lower down on the back, and they are long, thin wings. And rather than being used for continuous flight, they're more used for bursts of speed in battle. So they can fly with them, but the ability that I gave them essentially gives them a limited amount of flight. And if they try to exceed that time limit, they have to start making saves, or they begin to fall to the ground, or they may even damage their wings. And one of the things that I also did with the Valkyrie is as they age, they kind of evolve depending on the choices and stuff that they've made. So their physical features can change, and one of those changes could be their wings. They could sprout additional pairs of wings, I think up to even like 6 wings in total, where you see that those classical depictions of these like archangels with all of these wings spread out from around them. That's
so
like
Final
what an
Fantasy, I
old
love it.
ancient Valkyrie could look like. They don't have to. I mean, it's entirely up to the player how they want to change the physical appearance of their character. But I wanted to put those options in there for that physical change, because that's something that I wanted the Valkyrie race to reflect, is the choices of the players and the characters themselves.
So if they make bad choices, like evil, sinful kind of choices, do more, I don't want to necessarily say grotesque, but more, less angelic features, let's say.
Yeah, so if you're playing a Valkyrie and you're kind of like walking the line between good and evil, you may find that your feathers start to turn from that bright, brilliant white to kind of a muted gray type of color. Or that halo of light that's shimmering around your head turns from that nice, bright, celestial yellow to a kind of whitish color. Or if you decide to go like full-on evil, maybe your feathers turn to a black color, and maybe your halo goes from yellow to red. It could be anything along those lines, but as you make these choices as a Valkyrie, your physical appearance will change to essentially show everybody what you actually are.
So there's no hiding it.
No hiding it
Not
whatsoever, except maybe beneath a large witch hat.
There you go.
Speaking of Valkyrie, I have made a NPC Valkyrie for campaign 3.
Very nice. Mixed it up.
Who is maybe somebody you come across a bit.
We don't veer off like we usually do.
Oh no. It's like I expect you all to veer off no matter what.
Like we do. Yeah, and we have so just to kind of shift a little bit, because of course there's more that Fox has made. But going back, what are some of your favorite races that you've made, Rhojin, that we've either seen or not seen, or have been in past campaigns?
I'm really sad you still haven't like actually experienced them, because the Hakaru, the shark people, like I have a full like society for that designed for them on how they operate, and their affinity for magic and everything like that, and nobody's gone to the bottom of the sea.
Ash has
The
really
poor,
wanted to go.
The poor shark people, which are like, if you look at it, they can range from looking like typical street sharks,
right,
to being a little more humanoid, to where they've got like the human features, but still they've got like the grayish blue skin and the gills and everything. It just all depends on that certain shark person's heritage, if they have more human blood in them or if they're more shark.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then the way that they get around underwater, aside from swimming, is they have these giant like manta ray like mounts that they use to traverse the sea themselves, instead of having to use a boat or anything like that. They at birth are given one of these manta ray like hatchlings that they raise and grow with each other. So it's kind of like this little bond that they have with one another.
It makes it more depressing if one of them dies.
It's like the airbenders and the air bison.
Yeah.
They're given one
Yep.
when they're just a child. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like they can grow to like astronomical size. It's like if it reaches like full on maturity, it's the size of a small whale.
Would you say it's the size of maybe a dire flat?
Oh, they would be flap.
I think they're a bit bigger than the dire flat.
Oh my!
I think a fully matured like a fully matured one of these mounts is probably it's probably bigger than the dire flat.
I love that callback.
That we never got to see.
No, but we were clever enough to get away while we did.
Yeah. That being said, they are in campaign 3. They are an available race if anybody wants to play them.
I was actually just gonna ask for anyone who potentially wants to play one. Are you going to create a PDF or some sort of file format for us to look it up?
I have the format all written up. I just need to post it online. But yes, if
nice.
Like the Hakaru will be a playable race in campaign 3 because there is like a large body of water that surrounds both of the islands.
That's so cool. Yeah, so we have the shark folk. I remember when Ash made friends with them, she was just like, both her and me as the player was like, I really want to check out these shark people, because being a marine biologist enthusiast, I was like, I love sharks. And of course, being a child of the 90s, love street sharks and everything. So I'm just like, shark people! So if we don't get to see them, that's really unfortunate, but I'm really glad you're rolling them over so we have a chance to kind of interact with them a lot more, which will...
Yeah, I want to see somebody play a street shark.
I kind of want to. I have a really cool backup character, but I might, now that you say that, I might go with a shark person. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that pans out, but that's in the future. That's all good. So shifting a little bit with kind of going back to Raccoon, what was your inspiration for Raccoon? Were you just like, trash mammal that gives gifts? Like, what was your inspiration for creating the Raccoon?
Honestly, I was on Twitter one day and I was trying to figure out how exactly like I can bring into like some sort of like celestial being into give you all gifts and whatnot when that 100 was rolled, or as it progressed into being an extra life donation. And I just stumbled upon this this image of a raccoon in a Santa hat. And I'm like, okay, there we go. Raccoon. Didn't give it a name or anything like that. It's just the raccoon, because he's legitimately just a raccoon that's for some sort of reason has godlike abilities and meta creativity and can just create things for whoever.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun of the mystery, which is cool because we got to see a little bit more of what he's all about in the Mr. Raccoon Comes to Town one shot, where those were all custom classes as well, with them kind of integrating with the raccoon. For instance, any of the clerics, warlocks, anything, it's like the raccoon bestowed those gifts and spells upon them. Now, is that a normal thing? Like, are kobolds usually kind of like his minions that do his bidding, or was that just for funsies for us to torment you?
That was for funsies because everybody wanted to play kobolds. So I'm like, okay, cool. Kobolds are like a choice set of kobolds are like his elves.
I mean, it was pretty funny. I was pretty happy with that outcome.
What I'm trying to do is I am actually trying to develop a warlock pact for Raccoon, and to bring in the Pact of Joy from the campaign that we did, not the campaign, but the one shot, and then bring it in as like into full fold.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
You don't see nearly enough good warlocks in campaigns, so that would be great. Yeah, because it's like I'm trying to. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have Eldritch Blast and stuff like that, like every other warlock, but
the packed features is what I'm trying to flesh out, because I know there are a couple people in the cast who would probably want to do some sort of raccoon tutelage in the future.
Spreading the joy. That'd be a very happy character. Very sweet character.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tormented and
Because yeah,
defiled.
like HB Fox said, like most of the warlocks, they're not happy. It's all like some dark pact with either some like Cthulhu like being, or you made it with a devil. I think
what
there's
about
like
Popper?
okay, Popper again. Popper is that special instance.
No, he's not. I know his backstory.
Oh, you do? Oh, but he's so well. From someone who doesn't know his backstory, it's like, yeah, it's a gelatinous cube, but he's so happy and he cracks jokes. He's this fun-loving penguin with a top hat and monocle. Who wouldn't love that? Little do we know.
Because I think the like out of all the core ones, the only one that seems to have like a sort of quote unquote good pact is the Celestial Bond. Is the Celestial Pact, and
It's true.
even then,
It's questionable.
it's questionable at best. So it's like I'm trying to make that lighthearted warlock pact for people who for like characters who still want that, you know, awesome warlock power, but have the ability to use it to spread joy instead of chaos.
Yeah, that would be fun. What about for like clerics? Would you think about doing that for clerics as well, or is that a little too ambitious because of the crazy ass spells?
I'm same thing as it's like I'm struggling with the clerics. Because when I made the clerics for the holiday campaign for the one shot, it was like, okay, yeah, some of the stuff that I'm given this class is a little overpowered, but it's not really meant to be a serious campaign. It's just meant to be fun.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a little off the wall. So I really didn't care if it broke a lot of things, because this wasn't supposed to be some overarching campaign. It was just to be like a little holiday special to have fun with.
Yeah.
But like to bring it into like the full fold of a full like campaign 3, campaign 4, whatever, it needs some serious tweaking, because if not
That's
at
fair.
higher levels, it will be super broken.
I thought you did a really good job with the bard stuff. It was just unfortunate that I was a pacifist, so I didn't get to use any of it.
I was so mad that you didn't your bard wasn't like a carol or something like that. It was just somebody who didn't
Well-
want to do anything mean.
And what sucks about that though is that I think it would have been so much fun to just do a parody of some sort with the normal songs, the holiday songs, but because of DMCA,
Yeah.
you know, raining on everyone's parade, unless you make up something completely crazy that has nothing to do with any known song, which is sometimes hard in the moment when you just have an inspiration to do a particular song.
Well, see, that's why
Yeah.
that's why I don't require anybody to sing anything.
That was my original plan with that character, was to do that sort of thing. It's why she had a ukulele, and why I had my own ukulele ready to go, but it was like right before we did that one shot is when all the DMCA stuff started to really hit hard.
Mhm.
So like, okay, scrap that idea, let's do something else, and I ended up just playing a pacifist.
Because it's unfortunate because of anyone who wants to stream, I mean, aside from some sites who actually have permission to use copyright songs, is that you can't really do anything with your freedom to do that. It's all like, I'm just gonna play my banjo or something, or I'm just gonna be like, high five buddy, inspiration. It's like, oh, well, you can't really, kind of limit on having fun when you stream it. Of course, off stream, you do whatever the hell you want, because that's crazy freedom right there, but still, it was a fun idea, and I really liked how you did play her with the limitations that we unfortunately had to have, but you did come up with a lot of really cool stuff for the holiday themed homebrew class types, so that was fun.
It was a lot of fun to trying to play a character that just didn't fight in any way whatsoever.
and then got broken because she healed her friend and he died.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Which was hilarious because the one person that got possessed to turn on the party had no attack spells, and that was fantastic. Like, yeah, we're not screwed by the
was
bard.
not expecting trauma in a Christmas one shot.
Yeah,
You should always expect trauma in a Christmas story.
Yeah,
that's true. Look at A Christmas Carol. Crazy shit happens in there. So shifting over back to you, Fox, you have a theme. It is always some sort of feathered, super fast race. So now you have Callie from the Withered Waste campaign that is playing another bird-like race that has super crazy, stupid speed. What was your inspiration for that race?
So, Callie, and the race that she is, the Hargraven, I created that race before I knew what class Callie was going to be. And when I chose Monk for her, I didn't even think about the extra like speed boosts and stuff. It all just kind of came together and worked out to be really ridiculous. And I love it.
Yeah, like with the speed that she moves, I'm just like tempted to make her feathers blue. Sanic.
Yeah.
So the Hargraven are, I think, so far the race that I've had the most fun creating. And inspiration has been pulled from all kinds of different birds out here in the real world for creating that race. And D&D has a lot of bird races already, if you're counting stuff like from Kobold Press and all that. You've got your Kanku, you've got your Aarakocra, your Raven folk, and there are a couple others. Popper, technically, he's a penguin, kind of a bird. So I wanted to initially create a bird race that didn't have anything to do with flying, didn't have anything to do with the air, and so I started to look at the birds in the real world that are grounded. Ostriches were one of them. Ostriches and emus. They are not ostrich people. Not ostrich people. Say that to their face and they're gonna get. She does have legs for days. So that's kind of what I looked at initially, and then I started to, from there, look at the quickest land birds, and that brought me to things like roadrunners and all that. And that's where I really started to develop the race as a whole. And I started with something that you don't actually see very often in D&D, which is evolution. Most of the races in D&D were created as they are, and haven't really changed much over the years, aside from like regional differences in them. So I wanted to create a race that started as something completely different. And so I started writing that, and they originally evolved from a migratory bird that I have the name of around here somewhere. The Rhaivera is what their ancestors are called, and they are a bird that flew all over the world. Didn't really have normal migratory patterns like real world birds do, but they traveled all over the place, and that's how the Hargraven ended up all over the world, as well as these Rhaivera slowly went from flying migratory birds to grounded, humanoid-esque, intelligent creatures. And the thing with the Hargraven is I wanted them to be very, very region-specific. So a Hargraven in the setting of our Saturday game, Withered Waste, may be very lithe and have red feathers, very, very quick on their feet. But if you go like 1,000 kilometers north and look at the Hargraven there, you may see a species that is very plump and have like whitish blue feathers. They're very slow on their feet, that type of thing, because their ancestors, as they settled in these different parts of their world, they evolved into whatever was needed for that specific part of the world.
See, you're going off of I'm getting definitely those evolutionary vibes where if certain birds are located somewhere else, their beaks even start to evolve to
Yes.
adapt to the environment and everything. So that's really cool. So we have a potential of seeing Callie's race in different looks and variants per se for
Yep.
Where they live.
Yeah, and one of the most fun parts of creating that race is after I had developed Callie as a character, I wanted to really dive into more of the biology side of that race and how it worked. So what I essentially did was I had an interview with myself. It was me interviewing Callie, asking about her race, and that helped me kind of get into the mindset of genuinely answering these questions. So you may even see the biology of this Hargraven race change depending on the part of the world that they're in.
Very nice. Would you say this is your favorite race that you've created so far?
It's my favorite creation of a race so far. I mean, Knolls are always going to be my number one. Always.
Of course.
But I have had a lot of fun creating the Hargraven.
Now, do they all have red hair or any kind of vibrant feathered hair, or that was just specific to Callie?
They do all have feathers instead of typical hair, but depending on the type of Hargraven, you may find some of them have like really thin, long feathers, much like an ostrich's feather, or like a peacock's feather, instead of that typical like corvid type feather that you'd expect to see, or that Callie even bears.
Oh, that's pretty. So all I'm hearing is ostrich.
They aren't. I've backed myself into a corner here because I can't say they're not like ostriches, because they may be in some part of the world.
It's just fun poking you about it.
I can tell you there is a evolution of Hargraven that bear a lot of resemblance to hummingbirds. I don't know if we'll ever come across them in any of our campaigns, but I have created them and they're adorable.
I can see that. Yeah, that's there's definitely been inspiration between Rhojin and you coming up with some of these fun races that I have really nothing too much fleshed out as of yet, but in Withered Wastes, as a backup character, there was a made-up race that I would love to play and somehow make that a thing. Of course, I would have to, once I create it and kind of flesh it out, talk to Rhojin and see if it would even work. But yeah, it's not something I've never really thought too much about, so it's definitely been fun hearing both of you talk about the inspirations and the development for it, and it's like, oh, I want to do that. And of course, I know some of them have already been put in. It's been a while since I've checked it, so I don't know if they're all in there. And Rhojin said you were going to put it in there at some point, but in our Discord, we do have a channel that is called The Armory, which is all the homebrew stuff, if anyone wants to check it out, and that's everything from maps, lore, races, classes. It's got a little bit of everything. Anything that's kind of homebrew or fun. I know some people in the past have put like fun suggestions for creatures people have made up. I know they haven't been put in that channel, but that'd be something we can kind of put in there as well. Just fun like made up creatures and whatnot. So keep an eye out for that to check out in our Discord. And if you're not part of our Discord, we definitely got our link in our page just below on our Twitch channel, so definitely join us and kind of check all that stuff out.
You can also find the direct link to our Discord at our website as well.
BeholdRP.com.
That's the one.
Yeah. I almost went Behold Roleplay, and I'm like, nope, that's not
Nope.
Behold RP.
I did buy that one as well. It just redirects to the same thing.
Oh, okay. So it's a win-win either way.
So I wish it's like when I see HB Fox put up the stuff in the Armory, it's got like the layout of the actual D&D pages and whatnot.
Yes.
It's like, what do you use for that? Is it like a Photoshop thing or?
Yeah, so that's me doing everything the hard way because I don't know any other way. I just create that all myself in Photoshop. I wish I knew literally any programming language so I could just make like a web tool or something that can create these layouts for you, but
There actually is.
I know nothing. Well,
Wait, there's a tool?
There is.
I wish
kind of.
I could create one that was copyright free.
There
Oh.
is. I'll have to look up the website because for the life of me I cannot remember it, and it's actually the same website, Fox. You put the null on, where you can either pay it for it or it's free depending on how people want to post it.
DM's Guild?
DM's Guild.
Thank you, DM's Guild. I have found there are a handful of different layouts that you can put together. Of course, there is some creativity applied. For instance, a lot of the pictures that you put in, you'd have to create the fun, like torn up border and everything that you can do, of course, with brushes and whatnot. But as far as the layout, the page, the bars and dividers and all that stuff, you can actually get, and I can't remember if it's for free or like $1. It's stupid cheap on DM's Guild. And I've used it before because I was originally looking that up for the race that I'm thinking of doing as a backup in Withered Ways, but also thought it would be fun to do it while I've been creating the One Piece one shot that's eventually going to happen, and I did it that way, and it was a lot of fun. So they have it for monster, for the bestiaries and the monsters. They have it for if you want to do races and classes. They even have the boxes if you want to do the like little monster charts and stuff like that, if you just want to create encounters and stuff. So
Now those templates are they for Photoshop or what are they for?
They are for Photoshop, but if I remember correctly, they do have a separate layout for a different program. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is because my focus was Photoshop. But they do have them for, I think, one other type of program because it's in a specific type of art. Although now that I think about it, they do have it as a image as well, an image file. So if you want to just put that image in any art program, you can open it up as the image and just manipulate it and add to that as well on through layers and whatnot. So yes, you can get it as images now that I think about it.
That's good because I can't justify paying that much money for Photoshop when I barely use it.
Yeah, I use it all the time, and I can't justify paying that much money for Photoshop. I think I'm still on the 2015 version of Photoshop because I refuse to switch over to their stupid subscription service.
I'm CS 5 or 6, I can't remember, but that was from like 2017, 18. I don't know, it works and I'm just rolling with it because I use it every day, if not at least twice a week, so it's a lot. A lot.
I never grabbed it. I'm not an art person.
Well, and again, that's the best part too. It could be, I mean, everyone knows this. I feel like I'm advertising for them, but I mean, like photos or even creating races and classes and stuff like that. But again, you don't need it if you plan on using those images in a different program. I mean, GIMP's free. It's almost the same.
Paint Tool, Clip Studio, they're all amazing programs.
Yeah, so it's. I will try to find the links for you, Rhojin, so I can send it to you. Again, I can't remember if they're free or if it was like if it's not free, I know it was stupid cheap. It was like $1 or something, or $1.99, something little, and you got a decent amount of them to work with. So
yeah, and if you are using that stuff to share, like in our Discord, then you don't have to worry about copyrighted images and fonts and stuff because you're sharing it in a free public space.
Yep.
You aren't asking for anything in return, so you don't have to worry about that. The only reason I had to worry about it is because I was posting some stuff on DM's Guild,
yes.
Which requires certain licensing and stuff.
Yeah, I'm very plain when it comes to writing down creation stuff. I don't add art or anything because,
and that's fine if you don't want to.
Yeah, I just feel weird using other people's artwork for my own creations and whatnot. So I just put the information out.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, and it'll eventually be like a full PDF and everything layout. Again, I'm not gonna print it publicly. It's just more for anyone in the channel wants to use when I finally complete the One Piece one shot with the rework I'm doing, because what I found like kind of works, but it's weird the way everything is laid out. I'm like, that's super complicated. It should not be this complicated. I'm gonna rework it. And I mean, of course, I'm using screenshots and pictures from One Piece, but I'm not going to put it out for the public. So, kind of like what Fox said, if you're doing it a certain way, you have some hoops I'm sure you have to jump through. But if you're just putting it on like Discord or whatever, it's like, just for funsies instead of profit, you know. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a brief break where we're going to go ahead and answer some more questions. I do have a few questions lined up. We also answered a couple of them already, so I'll go ahead and I'll cross some of those off. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be back here in about maybe 5 minutes. Until then, we'll be right back, guys. And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. So we have some questions. They are, I do have a handful of questions from Weirds, actually, for everyone. But of course, if we have any questions for each other, now is the time. What we are going to ask first is, of course, the questions that we received. So, we already answered a few of them, like some of our favorite homebrew races, the inspiration behind them, the mystery behind Mr. Raccoon and whatnot. This one was already pretty much answered too. Will there be a chance to create a custom class per campaign continent going forward in the future? Now, it didn't say specifically if we, like, as players could do that, or if it was something more towards just the DMs. But let's just answer both of them. If there's an opportunity for both players and DMs to create these races through future campaigns or current ones.
I'm all for bringing in custom races, even if it's from me or from somebody else who's participating in it. It's like if anybody wants to like play some sort of off the wall or out of, not in any of like the books sort of race, I am more than happy to work with them and fleshing out the details as to what will be able to be brought in with said race, like the abilities and whatnot. That way you're not making a god.
Well, of course.
Yeah, but like races complete, as I smashed the hell out of my microphone.
Nope.
Races, I am more than happy to work with anybody to flush out any details that they want. That being said, there is a limitation as to how far that will go.
Of course.
Races or classes, on the other hand, is a completely different story.
Classes, I feel, are much more complicated and have to be very balanced.
Yeah. It's like if like you have a 5e SRD race, or not race but class that you want to play, I need to look at I have a rule that I need to look at it first, and I have the ability to make any changes that I need to, just so it balances out and it doesn't break the game.
Yeah, I feel like some of the classes that have already been made but aren't in the D&D world, for example, I know Pathfinder has a lot of archetypes that are very appealing but not in D&D. I feel like that would be a little bit easier because then you can make adjustments as opposed to a brand new from scratch race. But this is based off what I'm going off of personally, but it's also it's all about balance because like you mentioned before, a lot of the stuff that we were allowed to do in the raccoon one shot was OP, but that's okay. It was a one shot. Now if we put that in a campaign, there's a whole can of worms that we just gotta balance out because that would just be crazy.
Yeah, so like for reference on the race versus class thing, Rhojin has been very gracious and let me play custom races basically in the last several games and future games. And I usually try to get that race information to him for review a couple of months before the campaign starts. For campaign 3, I'm going to be attempting a homebrew subclass, and I gave him the PDF for that to review 15 months ago, and I'm still making some toned down changes to it as well. So I'm in the same boat as Rhojin. Absolutely. If you want to try a custom race in one of the games that I'm running, I'll work with you to make it happen. I'm all for it. If you want to do a custom subclass or custom class entirely, talk to me like a year and a half before the game starts.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, with things like Mass Effect, it's the one, not so terrible, but the one downside with Mass Effect is you really can't get too creative as far as races and classes. You can, to a certain extent, do races, because, I mean, it's aliens. We've seen the basics, but I'm sure there's many more out there we haven't seen, so let's have some fun with it. I plan on adding some very new, never-before-seen creatures that don't exist in the Mass Effect universe. They don't exist in any universe. They're just fun and made up, but they're specific races that technically aren't playable, but again, with something like Mass Effect, it's pretty limited. But who knows with what I plan to do in the future as far as if I do another campaign and everything after this, to give some more creative freedom, because I love having the freedom to do whatever you want instead of the limitations, because I want you to play what you want to play. So,
yeah, I mean that's the fun of homebrew, right?
Yeah.
Well,
oh yeah.
Homebrewing it.
Yeah, I mean, items and trinkets are way easier than races and classes, because again, balance. It's always key. One of the other questions we have is, we kind of sort of answered this a little bit. Are there any custom races specifically placed as NPCs in Destiny Forged or any other games going on?
Specifically placed as NPCs as to like people can't play them?
It doesn't necessarily say that, just more of like if you created a race to fit with what you had going on. For instance, like the shark people. It's like maybe you wanted a more unique aquatic race to be introduced, so you added them as special races into Destiny Forge, as an example. I think it's what the question is asking.
Yeah, they were definitely added in as sort of like a teaser to the race. You know, the world that's, or the area where campaign 2 takes place does have a lot of, you know, sea in it, so the shark people just sort of made sense and kind of give people a little tease as just in case they wanted to make a backup character or something as the sharks, or as specifically for campaign 2, like going back to Tortiga and the Puffins. Those were just created by the community, and it's just a bunch of little puffin people running around on an island resort.
So that's pretty cool. Now with the seer, I know it was a custom class for No Way Out, but was the seer just a human, or was that a particular race for the Gnolls to interact with to kind of help with the story?
So that NPC was actually a Hargraven, and that class was not something that I intended on ever actually making into a proper subclass, but I was quite fond of it after you guys had departed from that NPC, and I developed it into the Way of the Seer monk, which is in the armory, I believe, in our Discord channel. So that the NPC, the race of the NPC was already an established one, and the abilities of the NPC ended up becoming a homebrew class.
Oh, see, that's really cool. And again, it's in the armory if anyone wants to check that out.
There's
cool.
actually one other NPC that you guys ended up not seeing in that campaign, and there's no way you guys have enough time to interact with that NPC. But it was the one that kept stealing your stuff.
What?
Yeah. That is one that I was intending to use to introduce another subclass, which is a druid subclass, and it is the clockwork druid subclass.
Now is that in?
I know what my
Nope.
I know what my class is for the next Sonata.
It is a completely homebrew subclass that I started developing when I began writing the No Way Out adventure.
So Arcastus druid?
Nope.
What? Well, since we're never gonna see it, what is this creature that keeps taking our stuff?
It's just a normal dude. Well, okay, no, he's not normal. He's like certifiably insane. But the druid, the type of druid that he is one that focuses on using metals, metal equipment and metal parts, and creating constructs using druidic magic. The lore behind that NPC was that he was part of a druid circle that resided in Arcastus, but followed the typical rules of druids, no metal and stuff like that. But he thought that was dumb and bad, especially in a place like Arcastus. So he ended up being kicked out of the druid circle for using metal, and then he developed the clockwork druid subclass.
So he made it his own and he went rogue. I love it.
If you guys had found him, he would have offered to make a real nifty arm for a certain armless gnoll in your party.
Oh no. Well, you're technically getting an arm made right now.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, I have that one constructed and ready to go for you. I don't know how the smith is ever going to find you guys, but there's a chance.
It's like we're finally going to get our equipment, and it's like the last episode. Never get to use it. It'll be unfortunate. Oh, God. Again, we kind of dabbled on this, but what is your favorite homebrew race that is either in or out of Behold Roleplay?
So there is a race that I played like a long while ago, and it's something I like to bring in every now and then as some sort of like antagonist. And you're not necessarily a humanoid, you're a virus, and you technically infect and then take over a host, and you pretty much assume that host's identity, and you live in that body until it's either going to break down and die, or it's taking too much damage, and then pretty much you have to transfer to a new host. So you could continue to live on forever because you necessarily yourself don't have hit points, because you're just pretty much in a shell moving around. But the risk of death is always, like, a risk of, quote unquote death is always there, because let's say you die out, the body that you're in gets mortally wounded in the middle of nowhere and you have nothing to infect, thus you die.
Oh,
but
jeez.
If you were, say, in a city and the shell that you were in got robbed in an alleyway and is bleeding out, you could then infect the rogue that just tried to steal your shell's money.
Oh,
Did we interact with one of these
You've
Kamiraska?
You've interacted with one or two of them, yes.
Thought so.
Was it an illithid or something? No, wait, I think that was just an illithid.
There was one of these virus-like creatures in Kamiroska that had infected one of the I think it was infected one of the illithids.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. It is kind of what I was thinking of. So yeah. Okay. That's creepy and dangerous.
And you know, there is a collective of them. I mean, technically, when they're not in the when they're not infecting somebody, there are like these small infectious pools that are out in the wild where this virus is in its natural habitat and it's able to sustain itself in this collective pool.
Yeah, so let that be a warning, another warning to not just drink out of random pools that you come across out in the wild.
Funny enough, that was one of them, but you were not fully infected, so it did not take you over. If it had taken you over, if it took you over, I would have made you play a completely different person. You would no longer be Ash, you'd no longer be Molly, whatever. You would be Ash.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
God.
It's something I like. It's like I love the idea of a parasitic not even parasite, a parasite that lives by going from host to host and being able to maintain its lifespan, being able to maintain its knowledge, is slowly but surely growing in power until the inevitable happens and they're unable to infect somebody.
Oh God, that's creepy. It's a good thing that didn't get too crazy and out of hand for Destiny Forge. Could have gone bad. What about you, Fox? What's your favorite?
I think my answer is going to be a surprise to absolutely no one. Gnolls. They're my favorite. Every single one of them is my child, and I love them. Even the monster version of Gnolls, when I have to fight one in a campaign, it breaks my heart to have to kill them. They're just a really, really interesting race to me, and they've been around since the start of D&D, and they haven't really changed much, again, as far as the monster version of them goes, but there's so much there for players such as ourselves to play with and change and alter for our own uses. I mean, we've seen it happen even in other campaigns, not on this channel. I believe there was a Gnoll in Critical Role, one of the followers of the Traveler.
Yes.
So other DMs and other players are doing stuff with them as well, and I love to see it because they are a really, really interesting species to me.
Yeah, you don't see them too often, but when they do pop up, it's nice seeing them not the stereotypical, like, oh, they're monsters.
Yep.
Attack them, you know. So shocking.
Yeah, and it's everything about the race, not just the Gnolls themselves, but like their creator, who technically isn't actually their creator. He killed the one that created them and started to pose as their creator, and that gave him the ability to create them. And because they didn't have a written history, none of them really knew that, so they just kept going like nothing happened. And he's got that lovely creature of his that he likes to ride around inside of, Krokuk that you will see in Avernus, Layer 1 of the Hells. I believe the only creature in all of D&D, save for gods and stuff, that is immune to the effects of the river Styx. So that alone is incredibly interesting to me. It's just everything about them. I love them. Even their most disgusting creatures, like the Krokuk and the devils and stuff that are versions of Gnolls that are really gross to look at. Love them.
Oh God. I think I don't really know a lot of homebrew races, which is unfortunate. But I'd have to say one of my favorite races that I got to play a little bit many years ago is actually a Pathfinder race, and at some point actually it would be really fun to roll that over into the D&D universe. And they're called Strix, and they are basically, they remind me of Drow. They're usually very dark skinned. They're usually like black or dark browns with wings, and their attitude is almost druidic, because they're very peaceful amongst each other and they're in tune with nature, but they hate everyone else. Violence is not even in their vocabulary amongst themselves. It's always like committed by outsiders and stuff like that. It's just like, they're a very interesting race. And I remember I played a character that was one, and she had a giant dire bat that she had as her companion. I honestly couldn't tell you what class she was. I could not remember. I just remember she was a druid. And she wielded a scythe. And it was hilarious because anytime I tried to do a spell, did nothing. Like, I was shit. But I somehow almost always critted with my friggin' scythe. So I was just like, what the hell is this shit? I'm not even a druid. I'm just fighting with a scythe. So that was fun. I think it'd be really fun to eventually play that and roll it over. And sometimes their looks kind of remind me a little bit of your Valkyrie race, where their wings don't have to be at their shoulder blades. It can actually be a little further down. But if I remember correctly, they actually can fly with them still, but they don't have to be positioned right there, which is really cool. So that'll be fun to play at some point.
I would totally be down to work with you to bring it over.
Oh, people would mistake them as Dark Valkyrie, and we're like, no, we're not associated with those assholes.
Ooh, ouch.
We're not pious.
They're the Hot Topic kids.
There we go. They're like this is probably the wrong way to say it, but they're like the Drow of the Valkyrie. We're just like, we're over here, we're nice to each other, but don't touch us, don't talk to us, because we won't be nice to you. It'd be really fun. So that is actually all of our questions that were asked. So we have about 10 minutes left. If we have any questions we want to ask each other about certain characters and whatnot, whether it's this campaign of Destiny Forged or any other campaign that we did. I actually do have a question. I think you answered it before, but it's been a while, so I can't remember. To HB Fox, your Kobold Blue, was there a reason why you wanted her to be strictly support, like 0 offensive spells whatsoever?
Kind of. I've always wanted to explore playing a pacifist character, but I've tried it before in a campaign. What was the our Waterdeep campaign when I played Krite, the whatever he was.
Oh, he was a Aarakocra necromancer?
Yes.
Can't remember what he was.
He was a cleric. I
That's
don't
what it
remember. Cleric of the Grave, I think.
Yeah.
And he was kind of pacifist, but you can't really, at least not in my experience, you can't really play a long-term campaign without hitting anyone. It's just, it's too much of a detriment to the rest of your party, and you don't want to lean so heavily into one of those aspects that you start to make it less fun for other people at the table. So a one-shot like the Christmas one was the perfect opportunity to explore playing a role of someone that is more than happy to help everyone on the battlefield, but refuses to actually intentionally do damage to anyone. And that's what Blue ended up becoming, was that little experiment.
And I mean, when you have 6, 7 other players, I mean, it's like you're pretty good in that aspect of like, they probably won't.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like 3 of us at the table as players, well, okay, maybe she wouldn't be a pacifist. But we had more than enough people at the table to probably handle the fights, maybe,
Yeah.
without me getting involved, really.
Yeah. Exactly. Rhojin, I have one for you too.
Eh.
Funny enough, also from a one shot, the Sonata series that we've been doing once a year. With Forge, he has been so determined to find. I actually don't even know if he wants to find anyone else, just specifically Snowdrop. Is there a reason why he's so like determined to find them and reunite them?
Snowdrop's his best friend. That's Snowdrop was technically his first actual friend that didn't just treat him like a machine that was just there to open doors and stand in the way of arrows. No, she actually
Never.
she treated him like anybody else and actually started showing him, emotion. And so when she disappeared, in his little robot heart, he's a little bit sad that she's not there.
Oh. Well, I don't know what the fuck HB Fox is doing with her, but
So follow
See
up
what
to
happens.
that. Assuming Snowdrop is alive, I know she is a difficult character to play at times. Would you ever see yourself, Zoro, returning to that character?
I
If
think
she's alive.
so. I'm not gonna lie, she was so over the top from my norm, and that kind of energy can be exhausting for like a long-term campaign. So I don't think I would ever play her in that kind of aspect. I would annoy myself. I think I would definitely bring her back. I know I keep joking saying that I want to make one Eladrin for each one. But there's no guarantee that you are making 4. I mean, the third one could be the last one, or maybe you end up making a mini campaign or something. It's really hard to say. So, but I actually did, despite her being annoying, I actually really did like playing her because she was just so positive in such a dark environment. Despite Durdrin trying to murder her, which
So-
she...
Yeah. I know we're getting short on time here, but I know one of the goals of Snowdrop was to find a cure for what was ailing her people and then return
Yes.
to the Feywild with that cure.
Yes.
If she found that cure, again, assuming she's even still alive, but if she found that cure and if she reunited with Forge, what would Forge do? Would he go with her back to the Feywild, or would he stay and continue trying to fight off this ominous shadow thing that is overtaking the continent?
I think it would all depend on if Snowdrop wanted him to go.
Oh,
Because like if Snowdrop said, "Hey, you should come with me," he would just say, "Okay," and just go.
yeah.
I couldn't picture her saying, "No, you stay behind."
Yeah.
No,
Now-
it's not in her vocabulary.
I do have another character that I really, really want to play. You
Turtle
remember? No, not Turtle Dad. The next time I bring Turtle Dad in is going to be an actual campaign and not
That's
a
right.
one shot.
That's right.
But you remember the Moth people back from?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to make
Yep.
one of them, but it's going to be based off a rosy maple moth.
Nice.
Which
Those
is
are the bright,
the-
vibrant ones,
The
right?
bright, vibrant yellow and pink ones, but they're also like one of the smallest species of moth. So it's like I was thinking it'd be like 2.5, 3 feet tall,
I was gonna say, would you be a size small when they're normally medium sized?
but they would just be this just rage-fueled maniac, just full-on barbarian going into battle.
I
I
mean,
would
you
love
could,
to see that as a character.
You could potentially make that work because I mean, it ended with Forge still. I mean, finding that information about what's happening to Snowdrop,
Mhm.
and he's like, oh man, so he could potentially go off and with that new information, going, okay,
Yeah.
there's some urgency to go off and do that. I ain't got no time for some
Yeah.
guy we thought we killed.
Yeah,
to make
his
sense
whole
to bring this
focus,
character.
his whole focus is Snowdrop. He honestly doesn't care what else is happening. His primary directive is find Snowdrop. And anything else that coincides with that, yeah, he'll take care of it. But it's not like he's going to go out of his way off of the his one main goal is to find his friend.
Yeah, I think that is going to be something that you all, as the players of Sonata, will have to decide on, because I'm having 2 stories written, right, or I'm writing 2 stories right now for Sonata 3. One of them is the quest for Snowdrop, and the other one is continuing on with this battle against the Shadow. So it'll be up to you guys to decide which of those you want to do for Sonata 3, because they both will be happening simultaneously.
Yeah. So with that being said, at least for, because again, I don't know how many more of these sonatas we're going to do, but at least the next one, I feel like at least one more not returning Snowdrop because of what's happening to her. So I would probably go ahead with my plan on playing probably a new Eladrin because I have a problem. Although I loved my Autumn one, and no one really asked him. Of course, it's a one shot. You don't have a lot of downtime to super RP, but like no one really asked him about his voice because he had his God, I forgot what it's called. He had his throat torn out and he can't talk. But a wizard who was also an artificer created, again, I can't remember what the term's called, but it's an actual box, and it's a real life box in the real world that helps you talk through it. And it goes off the vibrations of the throat, and that's how he was able to communicate with everybody. But if he took that off, he would have no way to communicate with you guys except through like the message spell or something. So yeah, so he was kind of a really interesting character to play with, but yeah, I feel like with what's going on with Snowdrop, and again, I have no idea what's going on with Snowdrop other than poor thing is being tortured, that probably the next one, play a different character, which again, gives you the opportunity to try out the moth race, because I think that'd be very interesting to see you play this moth race.
Yeah, I'd love to see that as a player character in a game.
I'd have fun drawing it too. It would be like super fuzzy and vibrant. It'd be so fun. So we'll see how that plays out. But that is unfortunately all the time we have for right now. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We don't know what the next topic is going to be just yet. As always, we try to have a little discussion and give you a heads up ahead of time, which will also determine potentially who our next guest is. So thank you guys for hanging out. Feel free to watch this VOD on beholdrp.com, our YouTube, and just check out our Twitter and Discord for any future announcements we have. Otherwise, keep an eye out for all of our other shows. Monday we have Null Way Out, our mini Null adventure, where all the pups haven't been in the desert for a while, and I don't know how the hell we're getting back, but we're getting there. We're working on it. That is being DM'd by the wonderful HB Fox. Then we have our Tuesday campaign, Destiny Forge, where we finally defeated the Lich. Thanks to the lovely Rhojin Quest DMing us through that trauma, so we'll see how we do with our beach day. And he is also DMing our alternate Saturday game, Withered Ways, which is kind of an Arcana Apocalypse campaign in the desert and waste. Then our alternate Saturday, we have our Wayward Wanderers campaign going on, which is the Extinction Curse Pathfinder circus-themed campaign being DM'd by Azrin, and they just light everything on fire. So I feel like that's their goal, is just beat things up, find trauma, and just burn it. I'm loving the theme so far, so we'll see what happens. Otherwise, we will be back here the first Saturday of next month. And again, don't know what the topic is yet, but just keep an eye out. Otherwise, we will see you guys during the week during one of our lovely shows. Until then, we'll see you guys later.